Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 15 2021 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, it was the best week I have had picking games the entire season. Best records in terms of both my against the spread and straight up picks. I am extremely happy with how my progress has been going the last few weeks. 3 straight winning weeks on both against the spread and straight up picks, and this week was the best of them all. So, this past week so far against the spread and straight up, I am 9-3-1 against the spread. My only push was the Baltimore Ravens Cleveland Browns game. I had the Cleveland Browns -2. They ended up winning 24-22. That's how I got the push. And straight up, I went 11-2, arguably the best record I've had all season for my straight up picks. So that equals up to 73.1 and 84.6% against the spread and straight up, respectively. And now overall for the year against the spread, I am 96, 107, and 4, and straight up I am now 130, 76, and 1. That equals up to a total of 47.3% against the spread, and now 63% straight up. So definitely going in the right direction. That 500%, depending on what happens, could be in play, but who knows? I am very excited about my progress, and I'm excited that I'm going to arguably get back to my usual yearly averages by the end of this season. But it was a crazy week 14 in the league, just as every week is. I want to congratulate Tom Brady for getting his 700 touchdown pass and for breaking the all-time completions record. Yesterday against the Buffalo Bills, you had the crazy Niners-Bengals game that ended up being close. Back and forth. Robbie Gould missing the 46-yard field goal was a disaster, but Jimmy Garoppolo was able to drive the team down thanks to George Kittle, leading the way with 13 receptions for 151 yards. And the Niners now are clearly defined in the 6th seed, where the Bengals have officially fallen out of playoff contention and are now, right now, I believe, the 9 seed in the playoffs, behind the Cleveland Browns and Buffalo Bills at 7 and 6. The Titans blowing out the Jags 20-0. The story of the game was the Titans played an okay game, but their defense was fantastic. They got Trevor Lawrence to have 4 more turnovers. He's leading the league and rookies in terms of total turnovers. And after the wild report that Urban Meyer had this past week regarding to how he is coaching the team, how he is disappointing and inspiring the team, it is a very bad time to be a Jags fan right now. And for anybody out there that are Jags fans, I'm very sorry that you've had to go through this horrible mess this season. You had the Seahawks getting back on track. Tyler Lockett with joining Steve Largent is only the second receiver in Seahawks franchise history to have 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Russell Wilson, 14-26, about 270 yards, 2 TDs. Back-to-back wins for the Seahawks for the first time all year. So congratulations for them. It's definitely, I think the Seahawks are kind of slightly in the mix. If they beat the Rams, they're going to be right in the mix for everybody else for that bottom 7 seed. But I don't think that will happen. But I do think the Seahawks, they can bounce back and they maybe get an 8-win season. Get a nice little run as the year ends. Congrats to the Falcons for beating the Panthers and splitting the season series and getting the Falcons right back into playoff contention, where the Panthers just continue to nosedive with Cam Newton and no Christian McCaffrey. The defense looks frustrated, and the Panthers just keep continually, as Matt Rule says, getting themselves in catastrophic turnover situations, and that is not great for anybody out there. For a Panthers fan, I do think Matt Rule, he might not get fired this year. I would do it because I think this Panthers team has collapsed horribly. But if I am Carolina, I am definitely considering firing Matt Rule in the beginning of his 3rd season if he makes it, at least before the bye week, if things continue to implode and struggle as the way they have been. There's that. Congrats to the Saints for blowing up the Jets, whatever. Taysom Hill had a great, running day. Alvin Kamara came back, 20 carries, 120 yards. Zach Wilson, not great again. Jets are horrible. Nothing new there. And I do want to say, real quickly, and I'll get into my picks, I do want to send a quick shout-out to wide receiver Demaryius Thomas's family, his loved ones, his friends, all the Denver Broncos fans community out there. Of course, everybody knows it's involving football. Former wide receiver Demaryius Thomas passed away on Friday due to a apparent seizure that he had in his house. He was found dead in his house at Ralston, Georgia. My thoughts and prayers, my condolences, and best wishes to the Broncos, their fans, and all that. Demaryius Thomas, a very good receiver, has one of the all-time iconic plays in NFL history. Tebow to Thomas, 80 yards. Denver's won the football game. Tim Tebow, 316, says, I just beat you. He was the second all-time leading receiver in Denver Broncos history in receptions and yards. Only Rod Smith has more receptions. He's only one of 3 receivers to have 1,400 yards and 10 TDs in 3 consecutive seasons. I believe he is a Ring of Honor member. They may have honored him already, but he definitely deserves that. He's a debatable, retirable jersey. I think, maybe the impact of what he did in the community will help him get that. But I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy or downkill. I do not think anybody out there that thinks Demaryius Thomas is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, you're kidding yourself. Okay, so good receiver, great person, but Hall of Fame wide receiver, I would say no. But congrats to the Broncos, by the way. They beat the Lions 30-10. The Lions came back down to earth after beating the Vikings on the last second play. Nothing that spectacular. So, there are my quick thoughts on that. Alright, so time for my thoughts and picks for the games this week. This video will be a bit shorter due to the fact that it is the last week of classes for me, and I need to finish some of my work. So, but I will get these picks done. Alright, it's time for my picks. So this Thursday, and all teams are back. There's no more buys. It's 64 games left. Let's see what happens for the next 64 games. So this Thursday, when the 9-4 Kansas City Chiefs travel to Los Angeles to take on the 8-5 Los Angeles Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Los Angeles Chargers here plus 3.5, but I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-7 Las Vegas Raiders travel to Cleveland, take on the 7-6 Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are 6-point favorites in this game. Give me the Cleveland Browns here, -6, and the Cleveland Browns straight up. And then on Saturday night, when the 9-4 New England Patriots travel to Indianapolis to take on the 7-6 Indianapolis Colts, the Indianapolis Colts are 2-point favorites in this game, amazingly. I'm going to take the upset here. I'm going to take the New England Patriots here, +2, and the New England Patriots straight up. Then the next game, on Sunday, when the 5-8 Carolina Panthers travel to Buffalo to take on the 7-6 Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 11.5-point favorites in this game. The Buffalo Bills are 11.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Buffalo Bills here to win straight up, but I'm going to take Carolina, +11.5. Then the next game, when the 3-10 New York Jets travel to Miami, take on the 6-7 Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are 8.5-point favorites in this game, giving the Miami Dolphins here -8.5, and the Miami Dolphins straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-7 Washington football team travels to Philadelphia, take on the 6-7 Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are 4-point favorites in this game. Give me Philadelphia here -4, and Philadelphia straight up. Then the next game, when the 11-2 or 10-3 Arizona Cardinals travel to Detroit, take on the 1-11-1 Detroit Lions. The Arizona Cardinals are 13.5-point favorites in this game. It's one of the biggest spreads of the weekend. Actually, it is the largest spread of the weekend. Give me the Arizona Cardinals here, -13.5, and the Arizona Cardinals straight up. Then the next game, when the 9-4 Dallas Cowboys travel to New York to take on the 4-9 New York Giants. The Dallas Cowboys are 10.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Dallas Cowboys here, -10.5, and the Dallas Cowboys straight up. Then the next game, when the 9-4 Tennessee Titans travel to Pittsburgh to take on the 6-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Tennessee Titans are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Tennessee Titans here, -2.5. Give me the Tennessee Titans straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-11 Houston Texans travel to Jacksonville to take on the 2-11 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-point favorites in this game. In an upset, give me the Houston Texans here, +3, and the Houston Texans straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-6 Cincinnati Bengals travel to Denver to take on the 7-6 Denver Broncos. The Cincinnati Bengals are 1.5-point underdogs in this game. In my third upset of the week, I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals here, +1.5, and Cincinnati Bengals straight up. And then in the next game, when the 6-7 Atlanta Falcons travel to San Francisco to take on the 7-6 San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are 8-point favorites in this game. Give me the Atlanta Falcons here, +8, but I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers straight up. Then the next game, when the 10-3 Green Bay Packers travel to Baltimore to take on the 8-5 Baltimore Ravens. The Green Bay Packers are 7-point favorites in this game. Give me the Green Bay Packers here, -7, and the Green Bay Packers straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-8 Seattle Seahawks travel to Los Angeles to take on the 7-6 or 8-5. The 9-4 or 8-5 Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams are 7-point favorites in this game, giving the Los Angeles Rams here -7, and the LA Rams straight up. And in the Sunday night game, when the 6-7 New Orleans Saints travel to Tampa Bay to take on the 10-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 11.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Tampa Bay here -11.5, and Tampa Bay straight up. And finally, in the Monday night game, when the 6-7 Minnesota Vikings travel to Chicago to take on the 4-9 Chicago Bears, the Minnesota Vikings are 4-point favorites in this game, giving the Minnesota Vikings here -4, and the Minnesota Vikings straight up. All right, it's time for my quick thoughts on each game. The Kansas City Chiefs over the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a game that is going to be very interesting to me because I feel like, again, in Week 3, these two teams played each other, and the Chargers won 30-26 off a 4-turnover game from the Chiefs, and Justin Herbert getting a huge Mike Williams touchdown on 4th down to win the game. You look at the Chiefs, but they, ever since that part of the game, after losing to the Titans, they've won 6 straight games, been dominating defensively. The offense has been up and down, but they've blown out the Raiders twice. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Packers. They beat the Broncos. They've been on a great roll. And right now, after what happened last Monday between the Bills and Patriots, you could argue right now the Chiefs are the best team in the entire AFC once again. I just feel like with the Chiefs, they're not going to turn it over as much. And I think the Chargers, there's something about them. Austin Eckler suffered another ankle injury, so he's going to be debatable and gimpy or iffy for the Thursday game. He was out 1 week before. It's a 4-day turnaround. I don't know how that's going to go, but I do trust Joshua Kelly, who's their backup running back. And I think they also have Justin Jackson still, who's not a bad running back as well. So I think the Chargers are going to put up a great fight, even though, again, you could argue it's in Los Angeles. So once again, the Chiefs will have home field, or basically have a home field advantage on the road due to the Chargers not having a great dedicated fan base, or a lot of them. But it's just an idea for me to where the last time Mahomes played Herbert, it was Justin Herbert's first start last year. They played a great game, and Mahomes was able to win off a last-second field goal by Butker. I believe it was like a 55-plus yard field goal, which was clutch and huge for him. I think it's going to be that same type of game. Because, I look at the Chiefs and go, Andy's really not keen on running the football? And I just feel like, again, the Chargers defense has done a pretty good job over the last couple weeks in kind of limiting running games. They've caused a lot of turnovers. They lead the league in strip sacks, which, that'll be, I think, very interesting for the Chiefs' offensive line to hold up. But in this kind of game, understanding the magnitude of the circumstance with the Chargers possibly being able to beat the Chiefs, tie their record, and have the head-to-head tiebreaker over them, regardless of what happens, I think is incredibly massive for both teams' chances of getting that home field advantage for the postseason. And at the end of the day, I have to look at Andy Reid's, division record. He has one of the best division records since he's come into the Chiefs since 2013. I believe he's only lost to the Chargers a handful of times. The last couple times, the 2 times before Herbert beat him. I know he's 2-1 against them, but one of those times was a backup game where the Chiefs really didn't care since they had the number 1 seed. And at the end of the day, when I look at these two teams, I'm going to take the more consistent and hotter team, and that's the Chiefs in this regard. Could the Chargers win this game? Absolutely. And I think the Chargers, you could argue, could be slight favorites if it wasn't for that they didn't have really a home crowd at SoFi Stadium. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take the healthier running back room, the more consistent and more dominant defense. I know Asante Samuel's been out for the Chargers, which has been big. But I just think, again, the Chiefs, they've been on this roll. They understand the magnitude of the circumstance, and having the warm LA environment at SoFi, I think Mahomes and Herbert go back at it again. It's a copy of what happened last year. I think Mahomes wins the game. He drives down to a field goal. They get a game-winning field goal to win the game. I get both what I want, the win straight up and the cover outright for the Chargers. So that's what I am going to hope and take in for this Thursday. One of the top games of the week, though, right off the bat, though. So that's why I like the Kansas City Chiefs here straight up at the Los Angeles Chargers plus 3.5. The next game, the Cleveland Browns over the Las Vegas Raiders. This is one to where I look at the Cleveland Browns and I look at the Raiders and go, the Browns have been a bit healthier. They have some more confidence. Baker Mayfield threw multiple touchdowns for the first time in a game in a while for this season. I think the Browns, their defense, Myles Garrett now has the franchise record for sacks at 15. I look at what happened with the Raiders game. They were outscored 35-0 in the first half. Mike Hughes gets a fumble return touchdown very quickly. Mahomes throws for 2 touchdowns. He was 20 of 24. Darrell Williams caught a great touchdown. The Chiefs defense, Tyrann Mathieu got an interception off Derek Carr. And I just feel like in a way, like the Browns are in a fight. They still can win this division. Remember, with them beating the Ravens 24-22 yesterday, they are only now a game back of the Ravens for the division. And they still have the Bengals to play again and the Steelers to play again. So they will most likely have a chance to get a couple more division wins. And I just feel like with the Browns, they remember last year in the cold game, it was a 16-6 game, I believe. The Raiders won. It was ugly. And Derek Carr outplayed Baker by a little bit. I just also have to just go with momentum. That, if you look at the Browns, they were in a pretty bad tailspin for a little bit. They've had injuries. Baker's been playing basically like the operation man. Everything that you touch, he's a glass man. He has a hurt heel, hurt arm, hurt shoulder, hurt thumb, hurt finger, whatever. He's hurt everywhere. And he's still gutting it out and playing pretty well, to where the Raiders, you just feel like, over the last several weeks, even though they've had a good start, they've had a decisive loss against the Bengals. They lost to the Washington football team. They got blown out by the Chiefs twice. After winning two of his first 3 games, I believe Versace has either lost 4 of his last 5 or 5 of his last 6 games since taking over John Gruden in the interim coach role. And I just think, again, the Browns have a formula that the Raiders, I don't think, can match. And if you're telling me who has the better defense and who will have the better kind of mindset, I'm going to take Stefanski to outcoach Versace in this type of game. Could the Raiders win? Sure, because I don't really have that much faith in the Browns secondary due to injuries. I know they have a lot of talented young players, Greedy, Denzel, Grant. They have John Johnson. They have Troy Hill. They have a decent secondary and a very good front seven led by Myles Garrett. I just believe that the Browns have a little bit more swagger to them, a little more confidence. And even with everything going around, losing Odell, I still think the Browns are the better team in this game against the Raiders. Could the Raiders win? Absolutely. But I got to take the Browns here. More momentum, a bit healthier. Not having Darren Waller again might be huge for the Raiders. And I trust the Browns' kind of psyche right now. They're in a much better mental state compared to the Raiders, who are just free-falling at this point. So that's why the Cleveland Browns here -6 and Cleveland Browns straight up. The next game, the New England Patriots over the Indianapolis Colts. This is one to where I am taking the New England Patriots here based off coaching. Because to me, Carson and Mac Jones, Carson's better than Mac. The offensive lines, Indy's got a better offensive line. The running games are about a push, even though Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in the league. The receiving cores are about even. The tight ends are about even. The defenses are about even. I would say New England has a better secondary. The kicking, I give to Nick Folk, who's having a career year at his advanced age. You look at the history of Pat's Colts, obviously with Manning and Brady, this is Wentz Jones, so definitely a drop-off and kind of a weird vibe to this one. But in this game, when you look at both these teams, I'm going to go with the better coach, and that is, to me, Bill Belichick. I know Frank Reich, had a few moments against the Pats before. Obviously, remember he was the offensive coordinator for the Super Bowl, so he definitely knows how to play the Patriots well in the past. But this is a completely different animal, and I just feel like with the Colts, they're arguably the 3rd best team in the conference, but at the end of the day, I just think Mac Jones will make one fewer mistake or make one more bigger play compared to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz right now is the better pure quarterback than Mac Jones. And you have to worry about some of the secondary in the Colts with injuries. They didn't have Ryan Kelly, their offensive lineman. Hopefully he'll come back from his COVID respite that he has to go through the protocol. And at the end of the day, I feel like for the Patriots, there's a way of saying that Bill is going to make a decision or make a play that Frank Reich is not going to be able to make. I know Frank Reich has done a phenomenal job. The defensive coordinator got moved. The offensive coordinator's done a okay job. I like Matt Eberflus. But at the end of the day, I just feel like the Pats, with their running game, Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson can get both fully healthy. Or Damian get fully healthy, I'm sorry. If Damian get fully healthy, I really believe that the Pats should be able to win this game. I understand why it's a close game, because it's basically about a 3-point swing if Indy was a 3-point favorite or a 2-point favorite. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Indianapolis won this game. I just think it's going to be a close game that when it comes down to it, I think Carson or the Colts make one more mistake compared to the Patriots and they win that game to keep the rivalry going and still keep giving the Patriots that advantage in this great, modern rivalry in Patriots versus Colts. So that's why I like New England here +2 and New England straight up. Next game, the Buffalo Bills over the Miami Dolphins. I am taking the Buffalo Bills over the Carolina Panthers. The Buffalo Bills over the Carolina Panthers, excuse me. The reason why I'm taking the Buffalo Bills here is that the Bills just seem to do this. The Bills, always against bad teams, will roll them on a consistent basis. Blew out Miami, blew out Houston, blew out New Orleans, beat Miami decisively again, blew out the Jets. And there's 5 of their wins there. They ended up beating Pittsburgh. Well, I guess Pittsburgh was... No, they lost to Pittsburgh. They beat Kansas City early on. And that was the highest point the Bills had. And then everything else, they're 0-5 in one-score games. And it just... To me, like, they cannot run the football. Josh Allen became the third quarterback with Michael Vick and Randall Cunningham to have 100 yards rushing and 300 yards passing in a football game. They did not give any running back a run attempt through the first half of the game. And it was just kind of amazing that they were able to come back from a 24-3 deficit, go up 24-3 in the second half, and then Josh Allen crumble at the end and give Tom Brady the ball to throws to a wide open crossing Rashad Perryman for the victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think the Bills, and look, they obviously also missed Tre'Davious White a tremendous amount. Their secondary is nowhere nearly as good. But they're playing a Panther team right now that I just have very little confidence in. I have very little confidence in. And because it's just like when you look at the Panthers, they can have some nice moments. They can get, some good plays, but they keep turning it over at the worst times. And they keep ending up in horrible situations. Like Cam Newton threw a pick six that basically changed the momentum of the game. There was a awkward 4th down situation where Cam had to go for it. P.J. Walker comes in the game after Cam throws that interception, and he throws an interception, and then Cam Newton comes right back into the game. Chuba Hubbard had a couple nice runs. He had that one 15-plus yard touchdown run, but that was it. The Panthers receivers really could not make that much action besides DJ Moore moving down the field, and that Robbie Anderson 2-year extension does not look great right now. But to me, I look at this Bills team and go, they should be able to beat this Panthers team. If the Giants, if a New York adjacent team like the New York Giants can win 25-3 over the Carolina Panthers, the Buffalo Bills with their talent, even as with gimpy Josh Allen and his great defense they have the number 2 overall scoring defense entering the game, and they're playing a Panther offense which just cannot move the football really not much at all. I will take the Bills and their staff of experience, kind of dominance, and just talent over the Carolina Panthers. And I will say this, Matt Rule should be fired at the end of this year. But if he is not, that man should be on one of the hottest seats in the NFL next year because what he has done to that Carolina franchise has been an absolute disgrace. If it wasn't for Urban Meyer, everybody should be blasting Matt Rule for how bad of a coach that he is. He doesn't seem to have any sense of awareness. He's made a bunch of bad decisions. He does not have any quarterback commitment. He fired Joe Brady and threw him under the bus. Phil Snow is an old fossil that seems like, he has defensive pieces, but they can't do anything else anymore. And it's a really bad situation for Carolina. And I tell any Panthers fan, watch out for Matt Rule after next year. Go into one of the big colleges if one of the jobs becomes open. I'm surprised he didn't take one of those college openings at the University of Notre Dame or at Oklahoma when he had the opportunity. Because I would have left Carolina, the current position that it's in. But also, the reason why I took Carolina plus 11.5 is because the Bills, I just cannot trust in this game to have a dominating victory. I feel like with the Panthers defense, they're going to be able to get a stop, or they're going to get Josh Allen with the athletes they have to limit him offensively enough that it's going to be one of those awkward games that they kind of hold on and hang around to. If this was 7, I'd feel comfortable about it, but if you're giving me 11.5 and you're telling me the Bills are to win by 12 points, I can't trust Buffalo to win by 12 points against the Panthers defense, which has a, okay amount of talent. So we'll see that. But that's why I like the Buffalo Bills here to win straight up at Carolina plus 11.5. The next game, the Miami Dolphins over the New York Jets. The Dolphins have won 5 straight games. They beat the Jets earlier this year by at least 10 points. The Jets won't have a lot, Elijah Moore's on the IR. Corey Davis is out for the year. They don't have their running back, around. Zach Wilson's not great. The defense looks, up and down, banged up. They let Kamara and Taysom Hill run for 200 yards combined. The Dolphins should get Ahmed and Gaskin back from their COVID protocols. And they're going to be rested, and it's at home. So I feel like that's all a great combination for an easy, comfortable, consistent win for the Miami Dolphins, who are going to be 7-7 by the end of the week. That has to be an amazing first. Someone that was 1-7 through 8 weeks, and then 6 to 8 weeks later, he's now back at 500 with a very good or a genuine chance to fight for a playoff spot even at this point. I think the Jets maybe can make it somewhat competitive. Zach Wilson has one of his better games. But I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins here. Just a better team, more consistent. And I feel very good about, where they're going. They have a big game against New Orleans next weekend. That's a huge game for both teams, for both wildcard expectations. The Dolphins should be rolling into that game on a 6-game winning streak. So that's why I like Miami here, -8.5. Miami straight up. The next game, the Philadelphia Eagles over the Washington football team. The Washington football team lost their running back, lost one of their offensive linemen to an Achilles injury. They lost their quarterback, Taylor Heineke. They really could not run the ball. Micah Parsons had a fantastic game, sacking Taylor Heineke a couple times. He's the first rookie since Leslie something back in 1960 to have a sack in 6 straight games. And I really believe that this Eagles team should feel pretty good about where they are, about the position they're in, and how the Eagles should, they're going to get Jalen Hurts back. He should be rested. He should feel comfortable. They ran the ball really well. Gardner Minshew, even if he has to come in, went 20 of 25. Threw for 2 touchdowns to Dallas Goedert. They have a very good secondary, and Terry McLaurin left the game for Washington yesterday with a concussion. It looked pretty bad, so he might not be there. Logan Thomas is already out for the year on the IR, and I just feel like the Philadelphia secondary should have a field day against the remaining offensive weapons in DeAndre Carter. DeAndre Carter, and I can't think of Steven Sims, or Cam Sims. That seems Cam Sims. The Bates, the tight end, and any other receiving option they have on that team. It's not going to be great. Do I think that the Washington football team has a chance? I think they do. I think Washington, they've been on a good roll up to, yesterday against Dallas, and it's a divisional game. But if you're telling me right now with the injuries and concerns with the Washington football team, what the Eagles are getting back, I think the Eagles should very easily get this win based off of healthy people, more confidence, more momentum, and just kind of a higher expectation of what team has been playing better as of late. And I would say that's the Eagles putting the Washington game aside over the Washington football team. Sounds like Philadelphia here, -4, and Philadelphia straight up. The next game, the Arizona Cardinals over the Detroit Lions. Best team in the NFC against the worst team in the NFC. Enough said. There's really not that much I have to talk about with this game. The Cardinals, even if they beat the Rams or not, if they don't, the Cardinals are going to play the worst team in the conference. The Lions had their moment. They got blown out 38-10 against the Broncos. Largest win for Denver at home since 2014. And I just really feel this game is not going to be competitive or fun at all. Look, the Cardinals have won all 7 of their road games by 10-plus points. I think that will be an NFL first to have a team that went 8-0 on the road, winning by 10-plus points in one of their road games. Or in 9 of their road games, because I think they'll have one more road game coming up in the final 3 weeks. So, what a crazy week. Good job for the Cardinals and Lions. And for the Lions, look, Dan Campbell's going to save his job. What a great moment. He's a great dude, inspirational dude. Great thing of what he said about the Oxford, Michigan shooting a couple weeks ago. But he's got a very short leash going into next year, in my opinion, just with how things are going. So that's why I like Arizona here, -13.5, and Arizona straight up. The next game, the Dallas Cowboys over the New York Giants. This is one to where they put up a stat in the game, which was kind of telling to me about how bad the Giants' season's been. Their 5 main starters for the New York Giants have only played a grand total of 6 snaps together for this year. That's Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, and I think it's Evan Ingram or the other receiver. But that is just stunning to me, knowing that those 5 main key offensive guys, for the whole year, have only played a grand total of 6 snaps together. And, in this game, look, last time I took the Giants, thought it was going to be close when the Cowboys blew them out at home. This time they're on the road. The Cowboys, they did lose their left tackle, Tyron Swift, to an ankle injury. That's big. They Tony Pollard could not play due to a plantar fascia tear, but they do have Zeke Elliott, and they have Corey Clement, the former Philadelphia Eagle running back that was on their Super Bowl team a few years ago. And I just feel like with the Cowboys here, they know how they're playing. They know how dominant they could be. I don't think they need Tyron Smith to play to really dominate the Giants. The Giants' offensive line has been dreadful, so Micah Parsons, he will definitely have a chance to have a massive sack day and a massive record day, to keep his streak going and keep his chances of getting a record for a single-season rookie record will be greatly intact after this game. And I just feel like, again, the Cowboys, they have Cooper, they have Dak, they have just pretty much everything better around the team. The only thing you could argue is kicking is about a push with Gano and Zerline. And just, I know the Cowboys' defensive line is just going to have a field day. And I feel like Mike Leonard, Daniel Jones, which one, will have a very tough day trying to hold up on that defensive line. And Daniel Jones might have some concerns due to the last time he played the Dallas defensive line. He got a concussion after a very, tough physical hit that you could argue was a dirty play. The only thing I would say for the Giants is it's a divisional game, and maybe they show up more like I thought they would the first time, but after what I've seen out of these two teams over the year, I think the Cowboys cover that 10.5 by a good margin. I think they win by at least 14. So that's why I like Dallas here, minus 10.5, and Dallas straight up. The next game, the Tennessee Titans over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is one to where I think the Tennessee Titans, they're getting healthier. They have a defense which has played pretty well, even with some injuries. And I just can't trust Big Ben to make that many plays. He had a phenomenal fourth quarter, 2 games in a row. Though, in the end, with the Steeler defense, they gave up 400 yards consecutive times. Mike Tomlin gave up a 100-yard rusher for the first time in a half. I don't think that's going to happen with Deontay Foreman or McNicholson. I just think the Titans, they have a gritty, consistent time playing the game. They have more tight end depth. I think Ryan Tannehill will outplay Big Ben in this game. And I just think Tennessee will make 1 or 2 big key defensive stops that give the Titans the ball, a good advantage. The kicking advantage will give the Boswell because Bullock did miss another field goal. But I just feel like, again, if you're going to give me the Titans where they are now with the confidence they're coming off of from yesterday's game, or the Pittsburgh Steelers who are coming off of 2 very, a weird, 4-day stretch of beating the Ravens by a point and then losing to the Vikings by 8 after making a furious comeback, being now 29-0. In that regard, I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans to win this game based on the fact that they're a little more, polished. They have a little more talent around them. And I just can't trust Pittsburgh to really be effective in a big spot. So, we shall see about that one. Should be a great game, and it should be an interesting game. I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh won this game or was competitive. And I could definitely see for people taking Pittsburgh plus 2.5. Saying it's an upset. Ben could play well. The defense could play well against a very lackluster Titans running game and have Ryan Tannehill throw the football. We saw what's happened the last couple weeks when he had to throw the football a good amount with no running game. He had 1 TD and 4 picks and lost to the Texans. And then he copied that up with getting blown out by the Patriots. One loss is more respectable than the other. So that's why I like Tennessee here, minus 2.5, and Tennessee straight up. The next game, the Houston Texans over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Talk about one of the 2 dud games of the year. The next week's game is going to be about just as worse with the Jags going to New York to play the Jets. Houston-Jacksonville. I'm going to take Houston. Houston seems like they have life. Houston seems like they like David Culley, and I'll take Davis Mills for this game to win. And I'm just going to take the fact that the Texans beat the Jaguars in Week 1. That's it. I can't tell you anything great about these teams. I can question Urban Meyer and his coaching, and I already did that. The Texans, David Culley started Davis Mills. He looked okay. He threw for about 330 yards and a TD. David Johnson was put on COVID list, which kind of had a factor. Fairbairn had a 61-yard field goal, which was nice, but Davis Mills got sacked around a few amount of times. They could not really run the ball that well. And the Jags, 4 more turnovers with Trevor Lawrence. 5 straight losses with the Titans and 4 straight games scoring under 20 points. It's definitely not fun for both these squads, so I'm just going to take what I did last time. I'm going to take the Texans to win. They were the underdogs last time in Week 1. They won with Tyrod Taylor. It's going to be a closer game. I wouldn't be surprised if Trevor Lawrence and the Jags won this game. But give me the Texans here. They have a bit more motivation. They have a better head coach. They have maybe a little more talent. And I'm just going to trust Davis Mills going against the Jags team that just looks like they've quit. And I think the Texans get 1 or 2 turnovers, which will be the difference in the game. It's going to be a really bad game. It's one of the cruddiest toss-up games of the entire year. Nobody outside of those markets is going to watch this game. And I'm just going to take the Texans because I've seen them win before, and I've just been a little more impressed with them recently, now with Davis Mills being the permanent starter for the rest of the year. I think Davis gets his second win, or gets his first win of his career against the Jags in a very ugly and brutal game. Sounds like the Houston Texans here +3, and the Houston Texans straight up. The next game, the Cincinnati Bengals over the Denver Broncos. I am taking the Cincinnati Bengals here to win based off the better quarterback. Cincinnati has the better quarterback. I think that Denver might have kind of an equal team. The running games are about the same. The receiving cores are about the same. I think Uzama's a little bit of a better tight end. The Bengals defensive line, the Denver defensive line about the same. And the secondaries have some good pieces at, the safety positions. The corners, I give Denver the edge. And at quarterback, though, I'm going to take Joe Burrow to beat Teddy Bridgewater. If Joe Burrow, can make some big plays like he did to Jamar Chase, 2 more big touchdowns to send the game into overtime thanks to the Robbie Gould miss, I think that the Bengals won this game off the better quarterback. If Denver won this game, would I be surprised? Not at all. I think Denver, it's amazing that they are in this spot. Nobody talks about how good they have been. But in this game, when you have a competitive game with 2 equal rosters, defensively, offensive line-wise, you go with the better quarterback. And to me, that is Joseph Burrow, smoking Joe Burrow in this instance. Should be a great game. Excited for all the Bengals and Broncos fans to watch it. It gives you old 80s, AFC vibes of how great these teams were. But I'm going to take the Bengals based off the better quarterback. So that's like Cincinnati here, +1.5, and Cincinnati straight up. The next game, the San Francisco 49ers over the Atlanta Falcons. This is one to where it's about culture and trusting. I've seen the Niners, ever since they beat the Rams, they've been on a pretty good roll. They've won a good amount of their games. I think, Jimmy Garoppolo putting up, another 100-plus rating game, 2 touchdowns, not that many incompletions. Robbie Gould kind of sold them. And I just look at the Falcons and go, whenever you have these kind of games, I think Jimmy's got a little more talent around him. I think Jimmy's playing better than Matt Ryan. And it's just one of those things to where I don't see the Falcons coming into San Francisco and playing a good enough game to beat the Niners. They could. They really could. And also in this kind of way, in a coaching way, I'm going to give Kyle Shanahan some more credit, amazingly. I would take Kyle Shanahan to outcoach Arthur Smith in this type of game. The interesting game, the fun game within the game that people are going to watch, and I just want to point this out to everybody, who's excited to watch Deebo Samuel run against Cordero Patterson? The 2 main running backs for the 49ers and the Bucs, due to maybe Elijah Mitchell's injury, are 2 wide receivers. So what a great game and what a fun moment for the NFL to have Deebo Samuel and Cordero Patterson be the lead running backs for the Falcons and Niners in this Sunday's game against each other. It's a huge playoff game as well because the Niners are now entrenched in that 6th seed. They need to keep this win because if the Rams lose, you will essentially now have a 1-game race with another game to go at Week 18 for the Niners and Rams to determine who can get that 5 seed. And you could say, well, that seeding really doesn't matter because they're both going to make the playoffs. But it's going to be something to where it's kind of like the last couple weeks with Atlanta, Carolina, Cincinnati, San Fran, Minnesota, San Fran. These are huge playoff implicating games for both squads. And I think the Niners pull it out with the better coaching, the better offensive line, and I just trust the Niners defense a little more than I do the Falcons. But I'm going to take Atlanta +8 because I feel like this is going to be a 1-score game, 7 or fewer, just about evenly matched the teams are. The quarterbacks are about equal. Running games are about equal. I think, again, but it's pretty much an equal thing. I think 8 points is way too many. That's what I'm going to take it to Atlanta +8. So that's all like San Francisco here straight up at Atlanta +8. The next game, the Green Bay Packers over the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is hurt. He might have a low ankle sprain. He is hurt. That is all I needed to hear. I think the Packers, look, they've been on a roll. Aaron Rodgers threw for another 4 touchdowns. He has 27 TDs, only 3 interceptions. I think the Packers are clearly the second best team. I think of our secondary being banged up, Devontae, Lazard, Mercedes Lewis. They lost a couple of receivers. They lost a backup tight end and another receiver in St. Brown, so hopefully those 2 guys are okay. But that Packers defense, though, should be able to get after the Baltimore offensive line pretty well. They have Preston Smith. They have Kenny Clark, who's going to bring up a huge problem up the middle of our defense. Especially so our center and Bozeman have to be very careful about how they play. It's going to be a tough late afternoon for them. And I just feel like for the Ravens, this is one of those things where the injuries have finally caught up to us, and it's hit everybody around our team. And I just think we're not going to have enough bodies and enough healthy bodies and enough talented bodies to win this game against the Green Bay team that's pretty much been healthy for their main starters for the most part, throughout most of the year. So So that's like Green Bay here -7 and Green Bay straight up. The next game, the Los Angeles Rams over the Seattle Seahawks. I am taking the LA Rams here because this is LA, playing a bad team. Seattle's kind of feeling themselves after 2 games. I know the Rams may not be feeling great themselves after losing a couple games to the Packers and Cardinals in 2 of the last 3 weeks if it happens tonight. And also knowing that they're just clearly stuck in the wild card position if they lose to the Cardinals tonight. But that Seattle offensive line has always had a problem with the Rams defensive line. Having Vaughn, Floyd, and Aaron Donald up the middle trying to rush at Russell Wilson. He can try to make some plays, but I think it's going to be very difficult. You're going to have Jalen Ramsey covering probably Tyler Lockett or DK, pretty much shutting him down for most of the game. And I just can't see Tyler Lockett, Will Dissly, and Gerald Everett being able to win the game on a pretty consistent basis. Should be a great game because the Seahawks, back, it's kind of revenge of Aaron Donald, back in week 5 when Aaron Donald hit Russ's finger against his helmet. That was where the middle finger started. Now it's, the roles are reversed. Russ is going down to LA to play a big divisional game, and I think the Rams with Stafford, with his talent, and the consistency of the Rams, what I've seen against bad teams, I think the Rams win this game and sweep the season series with the Seahawks for the first time in a few years. So that's why I like the Los Angeles Rams here -7 and the Los Angeles Rams straight up. And then the final 2 games, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the New Orleans Saints. The Saints have beaten the Bucs 3 straight times, but that was a Drew Brees and Jameis Winston for at least a half, and Simeon failed. With Taysom Hill starting with a banged-up finger, and the fact that they really, if the Bucs can just shut down the running game from Alvin Kamara, they've been dominant at home, they're undefeated at home. They've been blowing out, they've been winning decisive games basically most of the time at home. They have revenge for last year. Remember, Drew Brees came in that same building, and he ended up, blowing them out in one of Tom Brady's worst games, or arguably his worst game as a Buccaneer in totality. And I feel like that will be on Tom's mind. I think the Bucs just roll over the Saints with their lack of talent or limiting Alvin Kamara. Mark Ingram may not be back. They have no really legitimate receiving threat. And I feel like for the Bucs, that Saints secondary, they're not going to get as many turnovers, but we'll see. I just feel like with the Bucs, they have the momentum. They're at home. They have the revenge motivation, and the Saints right now are just a bunch of shambles. The only legitimate they have had in over a month is against the Jets. Enough said. So should not be that great of a game on Sunday Night Football. I wish they could change it, but that's the rules of the schedule, and it's Tom Brady on primetime TV. So who can say no to that? Who can say no to that? But that's why I like Tampa Bay here -11.5 and Tampa Bay straight up. And finally, the Monday night game, the Minnesota Vikings over the Chicago Bears. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings here to win this game based on the fact that the Minnesota Vikings, to me, are just clearly the better team. And look, this game, you could argue I could have picked Chicago +4. The Vikings have been in 10 straight one-possession games. I get all that. And and maybe I might make that mistake against the spread with Chicago. To go from what I saw on Sunday night to being up 10 points to losing by 15 to having a 12.5 point spread when I picked them last Monday, and then somehow blowing that or being able to cover that or to have a 22 point surplus and then have a 25 point swing to where I covered by 2.5 points in a half. That's just downright stunning to me. I like what Justin Fields did. He made some good runs, made some big throws. Also, kudos to Jakeem Grant for having the longest punt return in Bears franchise history for a touchdown. That is the one thing he's great at doing, and he's an okay receiver if he can run deep. But I am also just going to throw this nugget out there. I know Kirk Cousins has only one grand total win on Monday Night Football. Do you know what team he beat on Monday Night Football? It was the Bears last year. So it's this same exact team in this same exact situation. Maybe not the same exact week. But I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings here. More talented, fully around. No Khalil Mack. Robert Quinn, amazingly, has 13 sacks this year. So he's lived up to his $70 million contract for the most part for this year, even without not having a lot of wins. I think the Vikings offensive line, who had Dalvin Cook run for a season-high career rushing yard, should protect Kirk Cousins well. I think he's motivated, understanding the Vikings are probably out of all the teams behind the Niners for that 7th seed. They're probably the best team to make not be in the playoffs right now. And I think the Vikings make that statement by beating the Bears. It could be an interesting game because you just know after a 29-point lead almost collapsing, you know that the Vikings, can definitely make it a game, even if they want to or not. But I just feel like, again, Cousins, primetime TV, same exact situation. Give me Minnesota here to win easily and at least by a touchdown in this type of game to have a Bears season end in a very bad spot. So that's why I like Minnesota here -4 and Minnesota straight up. And once again, I if I didn't say before, I have Tampa Bay -11.5, Tampa Bay straight up. I don't know if I said that after that game, but there you go. All right, so those are my thoughts and comments and picks for this week. Like, comment, rate, and subscribe. And good luck to all players, coaches, fantasy players, and fellow prognosticators. I'm officially out of my for my league's playoff contention, which stinks. But I had Derrick Henry and Calvin Ridley, so I kind of had a rough spot there. Hopefully all those people that have those two same players to watch this video, if any of them do, I feel sorry for you just like I did. But good luck to everybody out there for this Week 15 of slate. 64 games left to determine what 14 teams are going to be in the playoff. My Super Bowl pick of KC Tampa Bay is still very much alive, and I'm excited about that. So we shall see. But until next week, this is Matt the Fanatic signing off. Until next time, so long.